Hello everybody and welcome. In today's video I'm going to start something a little different. It's going to be a series of videos that talks about what I have in my music library. Now, I have books here that range from music history to music theory. I have biographies, scores, musical scores, and things of that nature. So I want to share with you what I have in here and give you some suggestions if you are looking into starting a music library of your own. So let's see, I guess without further ado we'll go ahead and start. I'm just going to talk about one book today, one book that I think everyone should have if you're interested especially in classical music, and that would be, if I can find it, this one right here. It is called Maligned Master, The Real Story of Antonio Salieri. This book was published originally in 1989 and is by the author Volkmar Braunbehrens, and I'm just gonna get right to it. This is an excellent read. Of course, about Salieri, most people have heard of him primarily because of the movie Amadeus, and unfortunately, I would say people have heard of him because of the movie Amadeus. Unfortunately, because as most of us who have looked into it know, that movie, is not really what you'd call the most historically accurate. So of course it paints this picture of Salieri as being this type of person that most likely he was not. Is very jealous, someone who is really, kind of out to get Mozart or out to sort of thwart his career, so to speak. So again, that's where this book comes along, and it's, you should read through this if you have any interest in, trying to get a more historically accurate portrayal of that time period and the relationship that Salieri had with not just Mozart but everyone else that he worked with during that time. Now, this book, of course, begins discussing the movie, actually more the play, and just the rumors surrounding, what was going on at the time, what was discussed at the time, the possibility that Salieri may have had something to do with Mozart's death and so on. So it starts out with that, and it almost immediately starts out debunking that, because there are really a lot of things out there, quotes, stories, and things like this, that will debunk that he had anything to do with Mozart's death, or actually any interest in taking part in, killing Mozart, let's say. So it starts out with that, and then, that's just the introduction. Then it jumps right into, of course, the life story of Salieri, and it discusses his music and so forth. Actually, at this point, I'll say that it really kind of goes into two types, or two parts, really. You can divide it into, one is there's, a big discussion of his interaction with people during that time, his interaction with Mozart, his interaction with, his colleagues and peers and, people like this. And the other part would be his music itself. And because of that part, because of that second part, discussing his music, he, was known more for writing operas. He wrote over 40 operas. So with that in mind, and with the discussion that it has of his operas, and mentioning them and their time period and so forth, it'd be a good idea to look into his operas before reading this book. Then I think it would just make for an easier read. I, for one, was never really big into opera, so when I read this and discussions kind of cropped up here and there about what he was writing, I found myself having to, sort of go back and look into some other reference material to just kind of get an idea of what they were talking about, quite frankly. Actually it was more of a brushing up than anything else. Now, this book is not one that, any of your college professors are going to discuss, because honestly, Salieri is just not discussed in college classes, unless it's grad school and you happen to choose his life or something that he has to be involved in as part of your master's thesis or your doctoral dissertation, something like that. Then of course he's going to come up. But in general, I mean, I didn't have any of my professors bring his name up at all until, I mean, this was much later after grad school, when I happened to be having a conversation with one of my professors, well after I'd graduated. We were just discussing the classical period and the fact that, for the most part, the only composer anyone ever talks about from the classical period is Mozart. And if you know a little bit more, if you've gotten a little bit interested in that time period, then you've heard of Haydn, of course. But outside of that, you don't discuss anyone else. No one has heard really of anybody else, including Salieri. So let's see, what else do I have to say about this? I mean, the book, as I said, it starts out discussing the rumors and so forth. Actually, I think the intro itself is called, Whispers and Rumors. And then, of course, the book ends with the end of his life and a discussion again of, what the rumors were regarding his involvement or possible involvement in, Mozart's death or something like that. But it's debunked through this book. So anyway, it's well worth the read. I'll say that many times, and I'll say it again. So you should check it out. Maligned Master, the real story of Antonio Salieri. Take a look at it. Read it. Let me know in the comments section if you have read it, what you thought of it. Or if you read it in the future, come back, put some comments in, and maybe we'll start a discussion on this. I would love to discuss this book with others. So, I hope this has been, something that has been a worthwhile topic, and I hope to hear from you about this book soon. So, thank you very much for watching, and enjoy.